come on, I'm chasing my dreams. The origins of this specific story can be traced all the way back to my childhood, where I would come up with these magical worlds, have amazing fantasies and imaginary friends as a kid. But for this specific quest, that started back in September when I had this idea for what I'm hoping to be my debut novel. It has a strong female lead, a secretly emotionally vulnerable male character, and dragons. But it's in a system that might be classified as dystopian. So I had this idea for a YA fantasy, dystopian fantasy adventure with a romance subplot and dragons. But that was it. Life happened. I wrote it down on a Google Doc and I just left it. But I didn't forget about it. And then Christmas rolled around. I had some free time. I went in and I outlined it more. I fleshed out the characters. I gave them names, gave the world a name, kind of set up some more information about the dragons and everything. But then life happens. Christmas break was over. Kids had to go back to school. I had to go back to work. And there was nothing for 4 months. But the story just wouldn't leave me alone. I was dreaming about it. I was daydreaming about it on the job. Don't tell my boss. And I just couldn't get it out of my head. And then my 28th birthday happened. And I realized I've always wanted to publish a book. I love fantasy. Fantasy is what got me into reading. Why don't I publish my book before I'm 30? What am I going to do with this dream other than just dream it? So for a whole week, I sat down, busted out, wrote the entire first act of my story, and I was feeling it. I was loving it, living, breathing it, everything. But I still have a job and kids and responsibilities. So I had to go back to the real world for a bit. But that thought in the back of my mind, to have that goal to publish my first book by the time I was 30, really stuck with me. So May rolls around. And I actually wrote in my journal here my 10-year goals. Can't really see it. And one of the things I put on there is for my 2-year check-in is to publish my first book by 30. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do to make this dream come true? And I did a second page. This was on February 13th, published by 30. And I originally did a 14-month version of it to allow for 3 months of marketing, 6 months of editing. So my writing deadline would be July 6th. And fantasy, is 100,000 words. That means I would need to write roughly 7,150 words a month, which felt like too much. And I was honestly just discouraged because it felt that much more unattainable, even breaking it down like this. Though, mind you, I have 23 months at this point. And I just let myself get defeated. And every time I would think about this story or anything to do with dragons, if I saw a dragon out in the kids' toy section, I'd get mad, be like, dragons, hate those things. But I didn't. I love dragons. I love this story, and I love it so much that I want to share it with people. So I was like, okay, what's more attainable? What's more realistic for me? And so I revised my plan to be published by 30 and came up with the 30-week challenge, where I write 50,000 words in 30 weeks, which would put me at the almost last week of December, but I took out Christmas, so December 31st to make it easier, because I don't honestly expect to get too much done the week of Christmas. And I wrote it out here, and then I'll put it up over there for you guys. And I put in 6 checkpoints along the way to check in on my progress. So that way, if I miss it one week, I can still see here at this checkpoint how well I'm doing or if I'm behind, because that puts the word count at 1,667, which you're like, oh, that's not that much. But when you're working 45, 50 hours a week and you have 2 kids and you have to take care of a home and all this stuff, it is a lot. And it's also been good for me personally because I've had to be really intentional and dedicated to taking that time for myself, because I'm in my 3rd week right now, to actually sit down and write it. Goals are great, but I wrote this in May, and then I actually watched Sarah Cannon on Heart Breathing's Project 180, her debut video on that. And it was so cool and surreal that she was also kind of at the similar spot of things have to change. And her thing of change or die, it was just like resonated with me so much. And her vulnerability of, I'm going to document the process, whether I succeed or not. And it was actually that day or the next day, I don't remember exactly, that I decided to start documenting my journey and this 30-week challenge on TikTok. And then 10 days after that is when I started posting the backlog on my YouTube shorts. But that's not part of your writing project, Michaela, you say. That's because I knew I needed something extrinsic. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right, but I also think I'm not. To hold me accountable, because it's really easy to have a goal and to write it in your journal, but it's another thing entirely to hold yourself to it. So there are times where I'm tired. I don't want to do it. I want to go to bed. And I'm like, no, I got to sit down. I got to write, because my 3 followers on TikTok are going to be sad if I don't. It's like, it's silly, but it's not. You know, like sometimes you just need that little extra push to get you over the hump of comfort. Because what I've realized over these past few weeks pretty quickly is chasing your dreams is hard. And you have to break out of your normal and you have to break out of your routine to achieve your dreams. Because that's part of chasing it. You know, that's why they say chasing your dreams. They don't say walking to your dreams. You don't just walk up to them. I mean, maybe if over time you built up enough routine that, you know, like at the last bit of the marathon, you walk across the finish line, but it requires effort and devotion and commitment. And so for me, documenting it on social media is part of that dedication and commitment and holding myself accountable, and hopefully showing other people like, yeah, it takes work, it takes effort, but if I can do it, you can do it. You know, I'm not the first person to write a book. I'm not the first person that's going to struggle to write a book, and I know I'm not going to be the last. And that's a great thing, because I know I read a lot more books that I could write in my lifetime. And so I'd love to have you all come along with me this journey to see if I flop or finish, if I've painfully tagged on TikTok. It's so cringy. I will do 3 check-in videos along the way to kind of update you for those that don't want to follow me on shorts because you hate short form content, which I feel that. And then obviously I'll do a big update at the end, and hopefully I have good news. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will see you in a few months on the quarter check-in.